Degas here at the end. We were looking at these hamster pictures, and we were looking at them in the light of the reading from Eunice Lipton that talks about the social rank of ballerinas, and was also then talking about the fact that Degas' pictures present something of a paradox in that there's this question of his attitude toward them. Is he showing them based on the stereotype, right, the myth that existed about ballerinas, or is he presenting them more in keeping with the truth of the situation? And Lipton's conclusion is that you can't really tell for sure because there seems to be evidence that points both directions. In these pictures, as with a lot of Degas pictures, you get a private moment. And I think Lipton makes a case for that, that even the racing pictures that we saw over a week ago, that's not a point of view that everybody has, right? He's there around the horses and the jockeys on the ground before the race begins. He's not a spectator in the crowd. He's not a member of the audience. But he is assuming the point of view of someone who is part of it, right? In with the in crowd. And that's true for these pictures as well, that he's giving us these privileged viewpoints where it's the sort of thing that people only hear about until they see a Degas picture. And you don't know what it's like to watch these ballerinas practice. At the same time that it's a privileged picture, the other thing about Degas that's, I think, fascinating and is much under discussion from scholars of 19th century art is the other part of that point of view, which is, and Lipton mentions this, the power equation. This is in election news, right? Like some guy walking into where a bunch of girls are getting dressed. You've been paying attention, that was in the news this week. He doesn't belong there. This is not a place he's one of these people that could be part of the supportive class of wealthy men who supported ballerinas through their studies, right? We know that about him. But at the same time, he puts us in these situations where the only people that we see within the scene often, not always, but with both of these, are the ballerinas themselves. This is a woman's world that Degas is in, has inserted himself into. And with that as a given, there is the question then of a differential between the parties. There are two ways to approach being a stranger in a strange environment. One is to be nervous and sheepish and think that you don't belong. And the other one is to take control of that situation and make it all about you. And with the Degas pictures, this is part of the debate. Is he asserting male dominant power in a female world? Or does he feel somewhat nervous for being there? And in these pictures, as with so many of them, we see that the point of view with the floor tipped down so drastically in the practice room here. Now, Lipton mentions that the stage tipped down too, so you can see them well, right? But his point of view is invariably higher than the tallest person in the room. He looks down on the shoulders of the standing people. He looks down on the backs of people. They're bent over and crouched, huddled in front. And it's, I think, in many ways impossible to entirely discount the idea that that point of view and the poses he puts people in are ways in which he is asserting a particular dynamic, a particular imbalance in status between his point of view and the things he's looking at. They all would have to look up at him. They all are caught in moments where they're awkward, saddened, the girl leaning on her elbow. Right? We saw that early Degas picture when we were looking at his portraits, where sometimes the portraits seem to be developing mood pieces, that maybe these are doing the same. Ballerinas with titillating views up their upper thigh, just enough there under the tutu on the left, to suggest something more. So they present oftentimes a complicated task for us as interpreters of pictures. And the complication is, what is he doing with these pictures? What is he intending? With Pissarro, we read how sometimes, even though the pictures weren't overt about his political thoughts, once we know his political thoughts, we can see where he's going with this. We can see what he's really interested in. So the question is, what's Degas really interested in? It remains an outstanding question. Just throwing this PowerPoint together, I noticed that was a mirror in the picture on the right behind the Roman king, sort of just off center, or dead center. And one of the things Wilson mentioned is how often they don't pay attention to mirrors. Right? Mirrors are symbols of vanity often, but not in the works of Degas. Right? They're not things that people pose in front of. I'm sort of interested on such as what we've mentioned now. We wound up looking at his bather pictures, which are as numerous as his dancer pictures. This is another theme that he loved. And again, I wanted to sort of continue focusing on this idea of, a man invading a woman's territory. A man invading a woman's space. 3 young girls combing their hair. Given their state of undergarments, I would suggest that they've probably been bathing. And there is again that suggestion that a moment earlier or even a moment later, we might see more skin than he's letting us see here, which is still quite a bit by 19th century standards. Right? The girl on the far right, for example, with her clothing falling off of her shoulders, or the view down the back of the girl in the center. These are titillating views. These are eroticized views. And with them, Degas gives us, again, a scene that's exclusive. Behind the scenes, if you will. Did I tell you guys the myth of Diana and Actaeon, the old Greco-Roman myth? Diana was the goddess of the hunt. She's Artemis in Greek mythology, but Diana to the Romans. Right? They all had different names for thinking. Diana was the goddess of the hunt, and Actaeon was a young hunter out with his hunting hounds, and he's poking his way through the forest, looking for game, for deer, and accidentally, as he's poking his way through, sort of pulls apart the brute, and he sees Diana there taking a bath with all of her woodland nymphs around her, naked, right, bathing herself in the stream in the woods. And I think he lingers just a bit too long. Like, doesn't he go, no, he says, oh, hello. Right? And she sees him. And in order to enact her revenge for having seen something he shouldn't see, she turns him into a deer, and his own dogs eat him alive. Right? It's kind of grisly. I love Greek myths because it is so amazingly horrific, right? So that was what happened to poor Actaeon, right? Having seen Diana. But I think that on a certain level with Degas, we saw with the Alexander and Bucephalus picture early on that he's drawing these connections between mythology and modern scenes. And on a certain level, the picture on the left is, and maybe even a dance rehearsal, sort of like Degas as Actaeon. He stumbled into the realm of the goddesses, that private woman's realm, and he's getting away with it. Unlike Actaeon, he's not going to get eaten alive, by his hunting companions. But the point of view remains a point of view down, sort of from an elevated perch, looking down on these figures. There we picture over at Phillips as well. Again, shows that same elevated viewpoint, man in a woman's world, privileged view, and a view of a figure that's shown as being particularly caught in a particularly awkward moment. And she's not, this is a prostitute between clients, and she's not decked out and laid out like Manet's Olympia, right, on display, all coquettish and coy and attractive, but rather caught stooping, bending, right, legs apart, butt pointed towards you, balancing precariously on her clothes with her servant, helping her, right, as she takes a sponge bath. There's my sponge metaphor. She's studying for it. Get those sponges dirty. But he feels that he's inserted himself into these places he doesn't belong. And the point of view that he takes when he's there is one of above it all, if you will. A point of view of privilege, I think. At least that's the way I've always looked at these things. I keep reading things to the contrary, saying, he's showing them hard at work. This is kind of what Lipton said. That this is hard work, that champions the idea of the working class doing this hard work for the pleasure of others. I understand that, but I can't divorce myself from the sexual politics of these pictures. That they really do seem to be the pictures of a point of view of somebody who doesn't belong there and doesn't mind not belonging there. And then the one from the slide list, right, from the Krieger. Again, looking down from above at a woman just having completed her bath, combing her hair, preparing herself for her professional activity. And that is, I think, in many ways what ties these pictures with the ballet pictures, with the racing pictures. They are all professionals preparing for their profession, for their professional activity, rather than actually engaged in it. Now, he does do pictures of the stage with ballerinas performing, but they are outweighed in number, vastly outweighed in number, by the number of warm-ups and rehearsals and lessons that we see. Same with the racing pictures. There are a few of these pictures that show the races taking place. Yes, they're out there. But they are vastly outweighed by jockeys wrestling with their horses as they're getting ready for the gate. Right? Walking around prior to the actual performance. And that ties all of these things together. One of the facets, again, these courtesan pictures have a legacy in Japanese film. And he's the first of many artists that we will see whose works are deeply influenced by Japanese woodblocks, which really presented to him, I think, the idea that prostitution should be a theme that one could focus on. At the same time, it has been in literature already for 20 or 30 years by this time. You can find French literature that focuses on the life of the prostitute from this point of view that it's a job, quite like many others, and that the working class people who are in that job shouldn't be looked down on simply for being working class. There's a famous novel by Zola, Emile Zola, that is entirely about the life of a prostitute. Right. Nana. At the same time, the other thing that we see a lot in Degas is this interest in women's work as well. And so in addition to the prostitutes, the bathers, and the ballerinas, we only have one here locally, but we have quite a few pictures of women in this other laborious craft of ironing, laundresses. In 19th century France, well-to-do people, I guess it's not very different today, didn't do their own laundry, right? Took everything to the laundromat. But laundresses would actually do more. They would actually come to your house and pick it up, take it with them, clean it and bring it back, right? It's more like having a valet than it was like going to the dry cleaners, right? Sorry? I have not seen the Book of Eve. Yeah, and there's a lot of pictures even before. I don't. Did that come like it was from? I didn't even. I don't even know. I'm sorry. I don't know the reference. Is what I have to say. The theme of laundresses is two things about it. One is that it's not anything new to the God. Going back to the 1830s, 1840s, many of the realist painters, that generation of painters before the Impressionists, had been doing pictures of laundresses struggling under the weight of carrying this load of dirty laundry around the city. And then they would, in order to wash it all, right, they would have to not only lug it from the house to the house, but then when they cleaned it, it's wet, they had to lug it from there to where they're going to dry it and press it and hang it. It was really a really difficult work. Right? So Degas shows the moment when, and irons were easier, right? There you put the iron on hot coals to warm it up, and then you go at it, right? And there's no sort of plug-in steam iron stuff, right? At this point. But he focused on the sort of back-breaking work that laundresses does. Now, remember that Degas' family was also very, very wealthy, right? And part of the family was banking, as we mentioned before, but the group that lived in America, they were in the cotton exchange, right? They were cotton dealers as well. So the idea of clothing was something that was particularly close to Degas as well. Now, with this picture at the same time, as championing the difficulty of this particular laborious practice, there's also the question, again, what we've been talking about. Here he is in an exclusively woman's world. Right? You don't go pick up your shirts. They bring them to you. So he's invaded her workspace. Right? Let's use a less charged term. He's arrived at her workspace. And his point of view is consistent with what we've seen in other Degas. Above, over the shoulder, looking down on her as she works. Now, part of it might be like with the ballet pictures to show us the kind of view he had as a spectator of things, looking down so you can see what's going on. But you can't divorce yourself from the psychological bias that you get from looking down on people doing their work. So there, again, his work presents us this incredible paradox, right, of whether or not he's championing this as hard work that's honorable, that's there, but at the same time there's something about his work that's slightly misogynist. Now the work I really want to do, there's a series of works to do with Mary Cassatt, the painter Mary Cassatt as a subject. Her family, we'll talk about her works independently, but her family is from Philadelphia, and they had moved as a family to Paris already in the 1860s or so. So she spent a lot of her time there and began to paint, and found when she went to Paris that she had a lot more opportunities than she had in America, because the American system was really closed to women, right? With very few examples, whereas the French were a bit more open-minded, and in particular the Impressionists were really open-minded when it came to allowing women the same opportunities that men had. So Cassatt found sort of terrific outlets there. But she also became really, really close to Degas, like just best friends, really got on well. And this picture, they're together at the museum. They've gone to the Louvre together. And he does a number of these pictures where Mary Cassatt is at the Louvre. And so she's leaning forward here. This is an American museum simply because it's a picture of an American artist, right? So even though it's a French artist, it's in the American museum. I was so surprised when I saw it there. But she's got in her hands postcards that she bought. Oh, well, there she says. There's a number of these things of her in different media. He gets her with her companion, I think it's her sister, going through the museum. I love this because these are on view right now, right? And from more or less the same series of trips that he took with the museum, where they're reading the guide, they're looking at the pictures, leaning on the umbrella. But I'm particularly fond of that study on the left, the sketch, where he's gone to the trouble to figure out the golden section, you know. To what degree can I alter the proportions to make the composition look better before he takes it, transferring it to the etching plate so that he can etch it, thus bring it around in reverse, right? So they're both going to look at art, aren't they? And yet Degas is also looking at Cassatt looking at art. And I think that there's something there that you might even say that in a close relationship like this, there's this other idea that when you go to look at art, aren't you kind of in your own world? The idea that somebody's over your shoulder sketching you looking at art in this kind of personal moment where you're having potentially, you know, you're a museum, right? You're engaging with the muses. Yeah? And he's back there sort of working around and watching. And so you might say, like, I hate Degas. I actually kind of like Degas. But I just can't get this sort of strange misogyny out of my head with these works. The one on the left or the other one? Yeah. It also makes me want to be there. When you want to be, I mean, okay, now I say it's really misogynist, he's watching them. I want to watch the two of them as a fly on the wall, right? Just to hear what they're talking about when they're looking at pictures together, right? What are they looking at? What are they pointing to? I guess I can't be all that back. I think pictures of you guys looking at pictures when we were down at the National Gallery last time. We were looking at Monet. I was Degas. You're on one of our flyers, right? You sticking your nose into a Monet. You don't know it. It's over as a printer now. Yeah, it's okay. You can't help you. I can't. So with this picture, I think what really fascinated me was the ways in which he uses paint. And this, I think, is for the studio artists out there. The way in which he uses paint to sort of direct your attention. If you look at the hands, it's just almost not painted at all. Right? And yet, these are the postcards of the pictures they've been looking at. And he doesn't care that we know what pictures they are. I mean, I would like to think that maybe I could help of other people in this room. I could tell you what pictures those are. I can't. Right? There's no way to tell you what pictures those are. And she's looking at them, and she's doing what you do when you've been walking on marble floors. She's leaning forward because your back's getting tight, you know? And at the same time, the face has got that, you know, enlightened look about it. And she's holding her postcards. This is what we've been looking at. But for Degas, and this is what I think is absolutely fascinating about this portrait, is that he brings it back to the face. And the face is slightly hazy. But look at that explosion of paint around her head. Like a halo, right? And it's all, I think, put in with a palette knife. And it looks like it's put in kind of as an afterthought on top of everything else, right? So the art that they've been looking at is not what he's focusing on here, I think. I think what he's focusing on and using the paint to do is to talk about what this has done to her emotions, to her state, to her mind. And kind of exploding that around her, like this is, wow, she's got this halo, you know, of white paint, and her head's in the clouds, right? This is what sometimes a good museum experience can do. You walk out, you feel better than when you went in, you know? There's this Mussorgsky piece, music called Pictures at an Exhibition, which uses music to get to that same idea, where each one walks them through the different galleries. He sees a picture about war, and he sees a picture about mythology. And by the end, it's dancing as he's leaving, right? And I think that's what Degas is trying to capture with these, is this idea that this experience has for her just sort of enlightened her, opened up her mind, as if it's sort of like her understanding of the world around her is very, very different from what she's seeing. It's not about what she's seeing anymore. It's about what she's feeling from that experience. I think that's just utterly marvelous about that picture. And it's not unique to this one either. He did a lot of these studies of her while they were at the museum together. And we've got another one over at the NGA, right? So on the right is that's Cassatt again, right? Cassatt seen from behind. And when I first saw this picture, I didn't read it right. I saw these two closer to the face of this, right here at Gaia. And when I saw, that's a cute picture. And I went outside and I saw it. And when I went outside, I realized what it was. I used to think she was shopping on the street, but she's in the gallery. right? Those are framed pictures on the wall. And you can tell because of the colors of the frames, right? And their distance from the ground line down below and the wainscoting. That here he is watching her watch pictures. But I think that with this one, he's doing exactly the same thing he's doing in the Smithsonian picture on the left, which is that the pictures don't matter anymore. Right? It's not what she's seeing, it's how she's reacting. And that, whereas we've got that smattering of palette knife white around her head in the Smithsonian pictures, in this one we have this incredible eruption of color around her face, which is just breathtaking when you look at it. And those greens and reds and yellows explode around her as if she's sort of in a different universe, right? That the colors aren't on the canvases anymore. The colors are now part of who she is, part of how she sees the world. So, and that's what art should do, right? Art shouldn't make you look at art differently. Art should make you look at the world differently. Otherwise, what's the point? You know? Looking at art is not about looking at art. Looking at art is about looking at the world. And that's what I think this picture thematizes, is that I love that acid green at the top of her hat. It's just a terrific color. But the way that with those yellows and reds just explode around her, they've left off of the wall that she's looking at. They don't have anything to do with the frames that she's looking at. They're all now dancing around her head. Okay? And isn't that what it feels like when you've had a really good experience with the pictures, that you walk away and it's not there anymore. It's dancing around your head, right? And it's not exclusive to art. It can work. That anatomy class, right? It can happen anywhere where you leave and you go, you know what? I'm now a different person because of this, right? It's made a difference. Yeah. Just very quickly, two of these technique slides. The ways in which he's carving that black, he's not figuring out where the edge of it is at first. He brings the black over the ochre, and then he comes back over the top of the black with the ochre again. So you can imagine there's a sort of like a black pink sandwich in here somewhere, right? With the ochre is the bread. And that bit here that you see right in there is sandwiched between two different layers of paint. And again, it all gives line to the idea that Impressionists paint quickly. It just looks that way. But there's so much about it that is so incredibly deliberate, insofar as the buildup of paint across the surface, that he's trying his darndest to look impressionistic. It's trying his darndest to look quick. But really there's nothing that's all that quick about it. I mean, there are places here where he's working wet on wet. Yeah, just above her elbow, the black paint has sort of impregnated the beige, right? But for the most part, he's working it, reworking it again and again as he builds up those surfaces. Right? Well, it's not too early to be done. It's a little bit early, so. Right? So I did want you to sort of, the reason is that one of my favorite pictures by Degas, and something one of my favorites in the National Gallery, I think it's a knockout. And a good one to think about as we're getting ready for our exam, right? Looking at pictures can be a really amazing experience. So, good luck this weekend. Email me if you have questions or problems. If you see the people that are absent from our little gathering, pass on to them what we talked about today. Talk to them over the weekend. And don't hesitate to email me questions over the weekend or just come by my office on Monday or Tuesday. I have a few meetings here and there, but I'm around most of the time.